Hello, everyone. Thanks, Mike, for the nice introduction. Indeed, I completely tore my ACL, but I'm doing okay. December is a full repair coming up, so I should be fine. Let me introduce myself a little bit. So the accent that you may hear is from my background. I'm from France. I grew up in France and just moved to the States about 7 years ago. Met my wife, Allison, who's American. So we've been raising a French-American family for the past 7 years. Got 2 beautiful daughters here, and it's quite amazing to actually see that they're both fluent in French and English. It's amazing what you can do at that age. I've been in the software development industry for over a decade now. Started at Capgemini in France, and I've been at Garmin for about 6 years now. At Garmin, I'm a application development manager. I've got a group of 20 engineers that do a lot of microservices development for our core services platform, dealing with customer data, product data, device data. I've got a group that's starting on big data as well, and a group that's more around software configuration management, sort of your DevOps style group, if I may. All the topics that I've put there are stuff that interests me. So if any of those are something that you want to talk with me about, don't hesitate to grab me after the session. All right, raise your hands if when you hear Garmin, you think that type of device that's in your car helping you navigate. All right, thanks. Now, raise your hands if you are a Garmin device owner, but you have something else than this guy. Good, fantastic. Wow, I'm amazed. Well, thank you for being great customers. So indeed, still I'm surprised by the amount of people who have a Garmin device. That's great. But indeed, Garmin is no longer just known as a automotive device company. We actually do way more. As I put here on the slide, we actually are selling 7,000 products nowadays. So it's quite impressive. We're not the Apple type company who really deliver like one product in its segment. We really tailor devices for our customers. And we serve 6 very different segments. So automotive, as you may know that. But even within the automotive segment, we actually do quite a few things there. Like recently, we just launched a baby camera so that you can actually watch your baby who is rear-facing while driving. We're pretty big in the aviation and marine segment as well, where we provide instruments and dashboards for pilots and people who own boats. We have sonar radars, fish finders, and all sorts of cool instruments for people who have boats. We're getting really big and have been getting big in the sports and recreation segments. So that's where if you're running, biking, swimming, golfing, hiking, during all those activities, we can provide you with a device that will enhance your experience while doing your favorite activity. And finally, the health and wellness. That's the new kiddo here. Since 2015, we are in the fitness land. We actually have those fitness devices that's your wristband, where you can track your daily activities. That's gotten really, really big. So to do all that, we have about 15,000 associates worldwide. We're based in Kansas City, but we actually have other locations throughout the world. We're really proud of our vertical integration model. What that means basically is that we try to do it all ourselves. We like to think that we're really good at what we do everywhere, and that's kind of our mission. But yeah, indeed, we're doing product designs, we're doing manufacturing, which is huge that we do that ourselves. Software development, finance, marketing, all of that is done within the Garmin office and by Garmin employees. But more and more, we're just not selling just those best-in-class devices. More and more, based on the type of device that we've been selling and delivering, we've been selling like an experience through software. As you can imagine, people with a fitness band, if I give one to you, and I don't provide you with a mobile application or a web application next to it where you can see your daily activities, share it with your friends, get insights on how to do better every single day, that device is basically useless. You're just going to look really good having a Garmin device, but that's all, right? So anyway, because of that, we do have more and more applications, mobile, web, desktop, that we provide to our customers. And the experience that those customers have with our software is really critical to us, just as critical as making sure that the products that we sell are really best in class. We want those applications to be healthy, stable, scalable, and so on. Like I'm sure you all do when you're managing applications of your own. So we've definitely grown as far as getting traffic to our Garmin.com domain. These days we've got about 25 million visits, unique visits to Garmin.com, and that's about 16,000 terabytes of downloads monthly. And in that model, as you can imagine, where we do it all, we even do it from an infrastructure standpoint. We own our infrastructure. We don't rely on public cloud like Amazon or Microsoft. We actually do handle our own infrastructure. We have data centers throughout the world. It's not to say that we're not going to use AWS at some point in the near future, but so far it hasn't been like a decision for us to do so. So we'll all that stuff, all the infrastructure, all the systems, application that we have to maintain. We do have an operations team that's on site 24/7 watching alerts and system going up and down. And when I first joined Garmin about 6 years ago, I remember when someone would say, hey, there's an incident, there's a problem, would gather in the room, and the only tools that we had at the time was basically PuTTY, your shell VM command where you can look at the logs and do a top command and do some fun grep and awk command on your log files. That was basically it. So when people would get on call to receive those incident problems, would kind of be like that. Has anyone felt like that before being on call? So fortunately for us, and I myself on call sometimes, in the past 6 years, we've made drastic improvements in how we deal with incident response and incident resolution. What we've done over the past few years is first really trying to get more data, be able to provide more data to our engineers, to our business, of understanding what's the health of our applications, how we're doing, being able to have really tighter monitoring, being able to understand for a given applications what are the dependencies of that application. Are they third party? Are they local to Garmin? Are they up? Are they down? And to help us with all that, well, we made some changes internally to our applications. We also invested in some more tools. We first invested in Splunk, which the team adopted that tool really, really well. It was really a game change for us to be able to have a log aggregator and start having some good analytics on Apache logs or Tomcat logs. We also purchased SolarWinds to help us with enterprise monitoring, being able to help our operations team understand what's up and down, who to contact, and so on. And we also purchased AppDynamics. And I'll get into more details of how we're using AppDynamics for monitoring our changes. But overall, spending really time and dedication and getting more data, having tighter monitoring over the time, get us to having more stability, more performance, and more understanding of the impact that an issue was having. I remember times where we would get in the room and people say, oh yeah, like there's all those servers down. And one of the director would say, all right, what is impacted? And people would look at each other and say, the e-commerce platform maybe? And we had no idea. It was really hard for it to correlate a back-end system issue to really a customer problem. But we're now way better, and it was a journey to really evolve all our applications to really have more data, have more monitoring. Now, in the past year or so, we've come to the realization, though, that we are really in a good place as far as monitoring. My team actually have so much monitoring that they're annoyed to have so much emails flowing into their systems, right? And we have got so much monitoring that sometimes we discover infrastructure problems before our customers call product support, which is really neat to see that. But what we realized is to really get to the next step, to get to solve some scalability problem, to solve some resiliency problem, we needed to do something different. The strategy to just go buy more tools to get more data or try to have even more monitoring on very specific things in our organization, that strategy was no longer sufficient to really get us to the next level. What we realized is we needed to change our applications themselves. We really wanted to make sure that we're not just looking at our servers and systems themselves, but we wanted to make sure that our applications moving forward were capable of self-adapting to incidents. And what we wanted to make sure that moving forward we're doing is that our monitoring and reporting was mostly done on business services. So this is the goal that we're currently at from an APM standpoint, is really doing that. I won't lie, we're nowhere close to having that on all our applications. But that's really the realization that we came to have now is it's really no longer sufficient to just look at monitoring our system. It's really important to change our application so that they can be self-adapting to incidents. So to implement that goal, the strategy that we have is to really dedicate time and resources to refactoring software. So we want all our application and services to be following some of the new concepts around microservices, 12-factor app, cloud native. We want to make sure that we're deployed on multiple data centers to allow for redundancy and allow for being able to fail over to another site if, for instance, the European data center is having a network issue. We want to utilize PaaS systems and container system to allow for quick releases of code. And we want to really enhance on automations. We want to automate. We want to make sure that when we're doing blue-green deployment and an application is having an issue because of a release, we want to be able to automatically roll back that release and continue to be stable. So we truly believe that really focusing on the applications themselves, because we do have a lot of legacy application, legacy services, that's truly for us the key change in our organizations to make sure we are going to the next step of getting more scalability, resiliency, and overall application health. There's a great read, it's a little ill here, but if you Google APM, maturity model, AppDynamics, Jim Hirsch from AppD actually wrote that. It's fantastic, quick read just to understand the various level of maturity that you may have in your enterprise from an APA standpoint. And when I read that, I could really relate to that story. So we're nowhere near that level 4 of maturity where we really focus solely on business services, but that's really our hope and our vision. When I heard about Business IQ yesterday in the keynote, like all of you, I was really excited because to me that's really AppDynamics is really answering with a solution to our vision. How are we actually going to be able to really put some more focus on the business? Still utilize APM, still utilize some of the good stuff that AppDynamics has from a monitoring standpoint, but probably no longer use those monitoring solutions to alert, like we've done before, alert through email, alert our operations team, but use those alerts to automate something else, rolling back a release, failing over a site to another data center, and things like that. Let me talk to you a little bit now about what we do with AppDynamics at Garmin. So like I mentioned earlier, we're really still young in our adoption at Garmin of AppDynamics. It's a tool for developers. We have it across multiple data centers. And currently you have close to 1,000 app agents installed, but we're looking at, we just got a new contract with AppD, so we're really happy with our application development teams. We're really wanting to have full coverage of AppD on their apps, and we're getting there. So we're probably going to be closer to 2,000 by the end of next year. And AppDynamics provide us with some unique benefits. First of all is that flowchart. When we first looked at AppDynamics and being able to show to our developers and engineers that flowchart, to us that was really valuable. We had never seen a way to visualize dynamically how all our systems talk to each other. And having that flowchart has been really great from an understanding of our application topologies. It actually also helped us to troubleshoot some problems. I remember once we had one system that was talking to another system, and they shouldn't have been talking to each other. So we were able to address that really quickly just by looking at that flowchart. Sometimes we still have issues for which we don't quite understand root cause, and our engineers and developers quickly go to AppDynamics to get some more understanding. Being able to visualize those red links whenever there's a change in behavior, change in baseline, that has proven to be really useful in understanding root cause. We use RabbitMQ for our messaging systems, and believe it or not, I don't know if any of you use RabbitMQ, but it doesn't come out of the box with the monitoring of queues. So if suddenly your listeners don't pull any more messages out of your queue can start to pile up messages and have thousands and thousands and thousands of messages in the queue without being removed. So we had that happen before, and that created some issues where suddenly during the weekend the listener would stop, and Monday morning the engineers would have to deal with the consequences of it. So we have AppDynamics now monitoring every single queue, and every single queue has a threshold alerting us when the number of messages go beyond that threshold. We obviously have APM installed, and our engineers really love going there and getting some deeper understanding of the JVM metrics for their systems. What is unique about AppDynamics is the fact that we can really see a time chart view, being able to look at the history and see any change in the history around our memory utilization, heap size, or garbage collection cycles. We use the database module as well, and it's proven to be really useful. Before getting AppDynamics, we had no visibility on the amount of transaction a given application was sending to a database. The database team would tell us, hey, we've got typically that much of volume, but we would have no idea about knowing the exact amount of transaction going from that application to that database and the response time that we were getting from that database. So it has been really useful as well, especially when we're troubleshooting performance issues. And finally, code performance analysis. So that's where sometimes we do have web pages that are slow or web services that are slow, and our developers love to be able to go to AppDynamics and without changing the code to add some more logs, being able to really understand line by line which piece of code they should really focus on to improve the lag that there is. So that's what we do currently at AppD with AppDynamics. Like I say, we really feel that we can do way more. We don't probably quite use a dashboard as much as we should. We don't use the analytics module. There's tons of stuff that we really believe that we could do with AppDynamics that we don't do currently, but especially when you think about all the devices that you provide, IoT is definitely a thing for us. So hearing that AppDynamics is getting into the IoT business is really exciting for us. We have quite a few mobile apps that are also taking a lot of traffic, and having EUM or the mobile monitoring system for us would probably be a great next step from our utilization of AppDynamics. Any questions on all that, how we use AppDynamics at Garmin before I jump into the Christmas story? Nope. All right, sounds good. All right, so let me, I'm going to get into a very specific use case of how we use AppDynamics, and that was really useful for us. Here's a chart that shows you the volume of transactions that we get every day into our core web services platform. Back in 2013, we started at about 5 million transactions a day. And throughout the years, as our business grew and as we changed some of our applications, the trend was definitely going up. We had some increase. We got to about 15 million transactions a day in August 2014. And even though it was already like a 3x increase, we were able to handle that by simply like scaling horizontally and making some change within our microservices stack. But it was fairly easy to deal with that. It was pretty slow, as you can see on the chart. But when came December 2014, and we introduced our first VivoFit, our fitness band product, it started to be nasty. We went from 15 million transactions to close to 40 million transactions in not even 6 months. And that was really difficult to handle such an increase of traffic in such a small amount of time. So as you can imagine, we did have a few incidents. March 26th, 29th, April 7th, and finally July 18th, where incidents where we basically had some load issues. And what we had to do every time is shut down some application, let the customers know, so sorry, we're down, recover the backend systems, and then restart all the applications. As you can imagine, the business, our customers, the execs are not very happy when something like that happened. And when came July 18th again, I started looking at some of the metrics, and that's where I actually saw that graph. I only pulled it off in July, and I saw that we had like a 2x increase in 6 months. I came to realize that in 6 months, it would probably be even crazier. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, in 6 months, this is Christmas. Christmas is typically even worse than every single day during the year. What are we going to do? We definitely need to put some focus there to really tackle this problem before it becomes an even bigger problem. Because indeed, at Garmin, Christmas is very, very important. For some reason, people love giving Garmin devices on Christmas. And when people receive a Garmin device on that day, they open the toy and they run on their computer or on their mobile app, and they register a device, create an account, start checking out the FAQs, manuals, and start utilizing those applications. And so on Christmas Day, it's always something really hard for us to make sure that we're going to be ready from a software standpoint. We know we're selling top of the class products, but we for sure don't want our customers to have a bad software experience on that day, and especially Christmas Day. So it is critical for us to be healthy at Garmin on Christmas. And so back to that July 18th day, like I really want to make sure that we were going to be good in 6 months. So we started looking at some of the tools that we had to give us some indication of how to handle this capacity problem. And we quickly determined that overall the problem was a database capacity problem. Every single time we had that incident, we were reaching out and having the database being overwhelmed for some reason. So then we asked some engineers to pull off some more detailed metrics. So the DBS got us something like that, basically giving us, like, during the incidents, the top slowest queries that were sent to the database during those incidents. Didn't really help. We also looked at Splunk, and Splunk was able to tell us that during those incidents, the volume of traffic per service endpoint to the core web services platform. So we were able to say that 40% of the traffic during the incident was coming from product services. So we'd think for sure that must be the problem. But drilling into the details, it wasn't something worth looking at. So then we looked at AppDynamics. And because it was a database-related problem, we started looking at the database module. And to be honest, it was the very first time that I actually looked at it. So for those who have never used it, it's really easy to use and really useful. So you simply click on that left panel on the database call menu, and you get this really nice view. It's usually not shaded, right? But you got that. With listing all the databases that you have, the volume of calls, and the average response time that you get for the database, which is really awesome, again, to see and track over time. You drill down into one of the database, and you get this very nice flow chart focused on the database, telling you all the applications that are actually coming to that database, the volume of transactions they have, and the average response time that they have during the time frame you selected. And at the bottom of the page, it gives you that nice time chart showing you any changes in volume and response time. And those two graphs right here were key for us. That's the first key learning that we had during our analysis, because we were able to understand that typically we get between 80,000 transactions a minute to 180,000 transactions a minute during the day. But every time we had an incident, we got to that 200,000 transactions per minute. So that was a huge learning for us. We knew what was the capacity of database thanks to AppDynamics, and we knew that past that threshold, we were having issues. It was also a nice proof to bring to our database team, because obviously when you have like problems, right, I'm sure in your company is the same. Everybody likes blaming the others, right? No, it must be a network issue. No, it's not a database issue. It's probably an application issue, right? So anyway, it was nice to get the database team on board and to helping us because we were truly able to say, hey, we have reached the capacity of your database. It's 200,000, we know. So it was good learning. And then AppDynamics was able to provide us even more. So if you can actually click on one of those communication links between an application and a database. So we did so, and we're able to get that view. And that view on the business transactions tab is able to give you the volume of transactions you get for specific business transaction to that database, which was a huge learning for us. As I say, we're not really super strong on our adoption of AppDynamics, and currently our business transactions are mostly done automatically. Basically, they represent our web service endpoint. That's what it is. So I captured all the data, and I was able to get to that results in Excel. As you can see, we were showing that 60% of our transaction to that database was coming from only one service endpoint, and it was the map web service endpoint. The next one was customer, and the third one only was 4%. So 84% of the transactions to the database were only coming from two service endpoints. And I don't know if you remember the Splunk chart that I was showing to you guys. Oh, nice. That's not quite the slideshow, but map was showing 9% of transaction. 9% of transactions was to the web services platform, whereas from the web services platform to the database, that's actually 60% of transactions to the database. So the reliance on the database for that map service endpoint was really huge. When you do the math of basically the volume of transaction to a database divided by the volume of transactions to the platform, you get to the metric of database reliance. And you get to learn for that map service endpoint that basically for one web services call that resulted in more than 5 transactions to the database. So I was a developer before, and seeing that, I'm like thinking, how come someone wrote something like that, right? Like, where is caching? Like, what's going on? So it was a huge learning for us, and we got some engineer in the room to try to explain why we had that, what was the history of why we got to that. But regardless, we got that second learning, and we were then able to get a project plan on. One goal was to really increase the capacity of the database. So we give the database team a goal to get to at least 300,000 transactions a minute. And we gave the application team the goal of trying to reducing their database reliance from 5 to 2.5. And we believe with such goals that we should be healthy by Christmas. Both teams actually exceeded our expectations about those goals, because we were able to increase by 5 times our database capacity. The DBAs were able to get us to 1 million transactions per minute by doing some MySQL version upgrade as well as hardware upgrade and some core changes in how they were managing that database. And our development teams was able to refactor their code to actually decrease by 90% their reliance on the database. They did some magic here where they started utilizing the slave databases for the read operations and leaving only the write operations to the master database. So doing stuff like that was allowing us to scale better and overall have less reliance on the master database. So we got a very good success in that project, and overall we felt really good going into the holiday season with such project success. And indeed, Christmas 2015 came along, and on that day we were able to see twice the traffic that we usually see on Garmin.com. We're able to get 320,000 device registration that day, which is about 8 times more than we typically do on a regular day. We had more than 100,000 account creation that day as well, and 60% increase of login application. All of that very successfully. Business was happy. Customers opening their toy on Christmas Day were able to utilize our software and was probably happy with the experience they were getting. So overall, thank you, Abdi. Thank you for the great insights it gave us in July so that we can get a good kickstart into this project. So that's all. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Bertrand. Any questions? Okay.
So I get this. So you guys did the analysis in July, after the July event. So that was kind of after the fact, right? Reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any situations where you've had to, address a problem more in real time with AppDynamics?
Yeah, we've had not to the extent of that, to be honest, but yes, we definitely have had issues, troubleshooting issues, and having to react real time to problems. Like I mentioned earlier, it happens, especially when we can't find root cause. We'll go on AppDynamics and try to identify what are the problems, which communication link is acting weirdly or is different than it used to be, and what has changed in our infrastructure that could have caused the issue. But that's something that's difficult, and I've got some guys here from the Connect team at Garmin as well, and that's something that's really hard at Garmin, and some of you may relate to that, to understand from the business what's coming up, right? Like one should say, like, how come you knew that the VivoFit was getting launched, and why didn't you do something about it before it launched, right? Well, yes, I would have loved to know that. I would have loved to know that in 6 months we would have so many sales that we would have capacity problem. Overall, it's a good problem, right? I'm glad Garmin had such a good problem. But yes, I wish we could be more proactive and dealing with scalability ahead of the game. But in this particular instance, we were definitely not ahead of the game, and we had to be reactive for sure. And that's where I mentioned earlier that's really our goal is to really work more on scalability and getting to change the architecture of some of our applications so that we can scale better without having to plan for the future and really know exactly what type of traffic we'll see. Just really have our applications scale and know that at some point they will need to scale. So that's what we do as well is by trying to really implement that strategy of changing our application so that they can scale, allows us to not necessarily rely on the business to tell us that in 6 months we're going to be in a bad spot because our infrastructure is not able to handle a 3 times increased traffic.
That was a really good talk, Bertrand. I'm curious to know whether you've given any consideration to using AppDynamics as part of your development process or your testing process before you launch your services into production.
We've never put thoughts on that, to be honest. Like I say, we're really still early in the adoption at AppDynamics. I'd be a fool of saying that I know all about AppDynamics. We actually, as part of our new contract, we have some consulting hours, so I'm eager to learn from some of the experts what we could do. So definitely not opposed to doing what you suggest, but it's definitely not something that we do currently. And we're, to be fully honest, we're actually, it's always interesting to hear people say, like, what are you going to do for your lower environment from a testing standpoint and making sure that you can do stuff before it hits production. But the vision that we also have is to also reduce the number of environment we have before prod. Currently, we have dev, test, stage, prod, and to us, that's just a waste of time. We'd like to go to prod faster, probably even just have one non-prod and go to prod as quickly as possible. Having some of this concept of redundancy, resiliency, blue-green deployments, our hope is that we can really remove some of those like testing and things that we do pre-prod to really allow to focus on giving those features to those customers faster.
With having 1,000 agents, did you develop a strategy for how how many tiers you're putting in a certain application in AppDynamics? So did you break it down by segment, your product segment, or do you just have like an application with just a ton of tiers in it?
Very good question. Very similar response I'll give is that we're definitely not in a good spot on how we are currently organizing our APM solutions from a defining application, defining tiers, defining business transactions. So what we have right now is mostly by teams, organized by teams. So we have application A is managed by this very specific team, and application B is managed by these teams. And those will be 2 specific applications. That's kind of how we've managed AppDynamics so far. But like I said earlier, I think with some good consulting hours, our hope is to get to a better strategy here.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry.
What PaaS system are you using?
We just invested this year in Pivotal Cloud Foundry.
Have there been any issues with you guys working with AppDynamics agents in Cloud Foundry?
I think like 2 weeks ago, we installed an AppDynamics agent on Cloud Foundry. We got a couple challenges, but it seemed to be working fine.
Last call? Okay, well, thank you.
All right, thank you.